योगेन चित्तस्य बधेन वाचां मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तम प्रवरं मुनिना पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिर्नतोऽस्मि। न गुरोरधिकं तत्त्वं न गुरोरधिकं तपः तत्त्वज्ञानात् परं नास्ति तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ॐ गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। Salutations to the wonderful embodiments of the divine manifesting on the dais, off the dais. And a special mention of all my young ones who are the future of yoga, the future of yoga therapy, the future of humanity. Because yoga is nothing but humanity. A yogi can be simply defined as a noble human being. We have gone through Homo sapiens, we have had Homo erectus, Homo sapiens sapien, and my father Swami Kdham used to say, the next step has to be Homo nobilis, the noble human being, and that is what a yogi is. Yuktahara viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapna vabodasya yogo bhavati dukkha ha. The dukkha that we are suffering, and we think it is pleasure because of avidya. That dukkha we need to awaken. We need to wake up. We need to awaken and realize, as Patanjali says us, dukkhameva sarvam vivekinaha. And then at that point we start to do something about it. Heyam dukkham anagatam. Today my presentation is on, I think I need the changer for the slides. Today my presentation is about yoga as therapy, a synthesis of the traditional wisdom with modern scientific knowledge. And first of all, I offer my gratitude to the Guru Parampara to which I belong, and a special mention of my beloved father Guru Swami Kdham, who exactly 25 years ago today, 29th of December 1993, attained Mahasamadhi. To be presenting in front of you today is absolutely his divine blessings. I am currently representing the Shri Balaji Vidyapeeth, one of the top universities in India, number 72 in the latest NIRF ranking, where we have a unique innovative center for yoga therapy education and research, where we are focusing on salutogenesis, a term I am going to define again and again. We are working in the field of the yoga therapy. More than 50,000 patients have benefited in the last 9 years. We have been working on creating yoga therapists who are a synthesis, a living bridge between the tradition and the modern science, that Purna Purusha that the Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan talks about, the wholesome human being who is the best of the East and the West, publications of 86, different CMEs, and of course, thanks to our beloved Prime Minister, the International Day of Yoga in a very gigantic form. Even our medical students, every one of our medical students in our university goes through the yoga abhyasa, a step towards salutogenesis. All our nursing students, all the dental students and allied health students, thanks to the visionary management and administration. Our focus is salutogenesis. So what is salutogenesis? We all know about pathogenesis because we are focusing on what causes disease. We want to work on avoiding the problems. It is reactive. It's against pain or loss and prepares one to live. But salutogenesis looks at what causes health, how do you reach your maximum potential. It is proactive for gain or growth, and you discover how to live fully. In our Indian context, I would say pathogenesis is the word we use when we say arogya, whereas salutogenesis is the word we use swasth. And I prefer swasth over arogya, because arogya says there is disease and the absence. But swasth is looking at samadosha, sama-agni, samadhatu, malakriya, and beyond that, prasanna atma indriya mana. And how many years ago? So many thousands of years ago, Acharya Shushruta has given that. Today, we need to rediscover our heritage. We need to rediscover and retranslate many of the things that have been said in the past about yoga and yoga therapy. We have to bring a new understanding to it. In this regard, because I'm talking about the synthesis of tradition and modern science, I thought a quote from Rudyard Kipling, which says, "Oh, east is east and west is west, and never the twain shall meet." Now, with due respect and apologies to Kipling, who I love because of his Jungle Book, the twain have met, and they have met through yoga. There's a beautiful cartoon, Asanas with Mowgli. The east-west dichotomy seems to have been overcome in recent times. More of the Eastern healing traditions are coming into the healthcare systems worldwide, and that is because yoga is truly all about integration. Yujjate anena iti yoga. Yoga brings unitive understanding between your thought, your word, and your deed. When you become an integrated human being who says what they think and does what they say, that is the state where that oneness is manifesting. Even the National Health Service in the UK has beautiful statements about the benefits of yoga. They still are a bit careful about what they say because, nobody wants to go out on a limb for something, especially if it comes from India. If it's Greek and Latin, it's easier. But if it's Sanskrit, well, let's think about it with a bit of salt. Of course, as has been mentioned over the last 2 days, dramatic increase in number of people practicing yoga and meditation in the USA. In 2017, 14.3 and 14.2, that's quite a bit. And yoga as a complementary health approach. And this is very important because for so long we are talking of alternative medicine. The moment you say alternative, you have created duality, you have created friction. Because it means if you are right, I am wrong. And if I am right, you are wrong. Now the principle in Indian culture is iti iti. You can also be right, I can also be right at the same time. You don't have stress about it. Now I always say you have to remember you can also be wrong, I can also be wrong at the same time. The 2016 survey by the Yoga Alliance, again, why are people practicing flexibility, stress relief, general fitness? The funny part is nothing about spirituality there. But that's USA, okay? Now if you do a survey like that in India and you get the same findings, I think I will jump off the nearest cliff here. Because that should not be our understanding. In fact, one of my students in China, she was a German living in China. She was practicing yoga with some of the Chinese people, and she said they thought that yoga is an American keep fit exercise. Isn't that amazing? Patanjali has told us already avidya is the root cause. Tasya hetu avidya. Now, this integration that has happened is because of many, many people working, and I could just find a few photos to put here. So if your photo is not here, do not get mad at me. And the recent work we are doing through our university, bringing together different people, different organizations. You can see the Indian Yoga Association there, the IAYT, the LMU, you can see our Shri Balaji Vidyapith. And again you see that beautiful photo taken at Sitar with all those medical doctors who are bringing yoga therapy and medicine together. And those beautiful photos of Madan Mohanji, Bijlani sir, my dear Sadbir, Dr. Shirley Tillis, Larry Payne, and of course, the most important one, Dean Ornish, who really gave us so much of respect in the West. Many books, and these are slides that Dr. Dilip, my Dada Dilip, without my knowing it and without him knowing it, stole from me the other day. Because he presented the same slides, if you think of it, the same books, but you will notice he left out my book, but I keep his book. And of course, Matthew Taylor's recent one on pain. See, when you have your beloved Dada with you, you know that you are strong, because with him by my side, I can face not just this world, but all the worlds that are there, all the 14 lokas we can face together. Another beautiful work that has brought together this is the work by Joseph Lepage, who came in India, did a tour around all the important yoga therapy centers and made video documentation. And I highly recommend that people watch this, because he has presented those institutions with such a respectful attitude. He has presented them better than they could have presented themselves. And real beautiful work, the Yoga Therapy in India video project. And of course, for me, the best definition of yoga therapy is that empowering the individual, and again, the teachings and practice. Keep the yoga in yoga therapy. Now, I thought I will just give you a little bit of bridges that we can think about, where the traditional concepts and a revised modern understanding can be brought together. And it is an image that would be a mental image, something like this. And I have been very conscious in selecting the images I have selected here. One concept that we are all aware of is the Panchakosha. You may not recognize it from the image I have given, but this image brings together the two traditions, one which goes outward with the koshas and the other that goes inward with the koshas. And so I have brought them both together. But what I want to say is that we often think the Panchakoshas are someplace else. And we think of them as layers. And so we create a duality. All the koshas are in the same place at the same time. But because we are limited to the Annamaya Kosha thinking, I think if Satbir is here in Kaivalya listening to me, he cannot be in the USA at the same time. Because we say, no two bodies can occupy the same space at the same time, and one body cannot be in more than one place at a time. But with these bodies, so when you translate kosha as body, you have already created this thing which is a divisive nature. Now let's look at the fact that even your cells have a panchakosha. Now this is something which is very beautiful, because your Annamaya kosha is the structural existence. Your cell has a structure. The Pranamaya kosha is the functional mechanisms. The cellular memory is the Manomaya kosha. The intelligent feedback that is there in the cell is the Vijnanamaya kosha. And the interactivity of every cell with every other cell in your body is the Anandamaya kosha. How do these cells in your body interact with each other? We are looking for nerves and blood vessels. No. They communicate by Bluetooth. Okay? Another concept that my dear Sadhbir brought out yesterday was on flow, and he talked about how in musicians we experience flow, which is another name for samadhi. And when you give the yoga to the musicians, amazingly more. You know where the yoga concept of this is? The Bhagavad Gita. Yoga hai karmasu kaushalam. When you have that skill in your action and you bring in the nishkama aspect, you are not attached to it. That is where metacognition comes in. When you have the ability to do your best and leave the rest, you do what needs to be done without being the doer. At that point, flow happens. This is where you have to go back to these concepts and say, what are they saying? Another concept, your sympathetic, parasympathetic. Sympathetic is fight or flight, and parasympathetic rest and digest. I like to say it's the rehabilitate and heal. Rest and digest, you say, that's not for me. Rehabilitate and heal. Where does healing occur? When the parasympathetic is in action. Because the parasympathetic is anabolic. The sympathetic is catabolic. So if you are in stress and you say, I want to get better, I want to get better, I want to get better, and now, you're not going to get any better. But if you say, let's take a step back and relax, your healing is going to be much better. And that is where yoga's greatest contribution to modern healthcare can be. Not in asanas. not in the techniques, but helping the person to relax. Because relaxation is a prerequisite for healing, and we cannot heal if we are stressed. And this is why any yoga practice, any yoga concept that enables you to educe from within, not outside, educe from within the relaxation response is going to help you heal better. Another concept, sinus arrhythmia. It's a beautiful concept, and one of those concepts I love because it depends on your sinoatrial node. This is the pacemaker of your heart, situated in your right atrium. And the other day, we were having a discussion, Dr. Allen and myself, and we were talking about where does the soul reside. And I said maybe it is the sinoatrial node, because the sinoatrial node starts to beat, your heart starts to beat about 4 months intrauterine life, and never stops, and when it stops, you stop. As simple as that. What is it? And it doesn't need anybody's prompting. It does its job. Nishkama karma. The epitome of Nishkama karma is your sinoatrial node. It doesn't care whether you like it or you don't like it, whether you praise it or not, whether you give it a Padma Shri or a Bhura Shri. It doesn't care about that. It doesn't need man and apaman. It is beyond man and apaman. It is Sthita Prajna. That is what your sinoatrial node is. And what happens is, how you breathe influences what happens in your heart. And that is what Dr. Bhavanani was so beautifully telling us. That you slow down your breath, but not just slow it down. Make it deep. Slow, deep breathing is the key. And he has given another formula, the number 6 formula. Breathe at the rate of 6 per minute, and immediately you are creating samatvam yoga uchyate, harmonious balance within you, equilibrium, psychological and physiological equilibrium coming in, so that you can be more fit to face the stress, the ubiquitous stress that is there every place. Now how can you affect this? All the pranayama ratios that have longer exhalation, as my Dilip Dada was saying. The moment you exhale longer than you inhale, you are bringing that horse under control. The horse that is running, you are saying, come back under control. Who brings it under control? Your locus coeruleus and your prefrontal cortex. Prefrontal cortex is where you truly become human being. Up to that, you are not really human. This is the part that gives you the power of choice. As Viktor Frankl so beautifully said, the last and final freedom that we as a human being have is the choice of attitude towards what happens to us. That is the bhavana that Patanjali talks about. Choosing the bhavana, maitri karuna mudito upekshanam, sukha dukkha punya apunya vishayanam, bhavanatah chitta prasadana. That is the bhavana. Where does that bhavana come? Your prefrontal cortex. So the moment you start to breathe longer, exhale longer, that starts to happen. Now you go and tell someone, a common person, you are all in yoga, so it's a different story. But you tell a common person, breathe in for 4 counts and breathe out for 8. And they go, I cannot do it, sir. Very difficult. You say, breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. By the time you come to 3 or 4, you have lost them. What do? You add sound to it. Because the moment you add sound to it, you can breathe out longer without having to think about it and make the effort. The same person who said it's impossible, you say, let's add the akara nada, the sound of a. So you say, breathe in, and now breathe out. And this is easy. And this is why we have done a recent study on that, showing that the pranava, where we have an elongated exhalation with the sound, actually is the most potent to induce the sinus arrhythmia effect. And this is what we need to bring in. Now, why do you want to slow down your heart? It looks like Latin and Greek to Indians and Sanskrit to the Westerners. Well, the message is, your heart supplies itself only in diastole. And I think this is a very important thing to remember. During systole, your heart is supplying every part, except coronary circulation. Coronary circulation is not happening in systole. It is only when your heart goes into diastole that coronary circulation is enhanced. Now, you know what happens is in this cardiac cycle of 0.8 seconds, if your heart is going at the rate of 75 per minute, what happens is there is 0.3 for systole, ventricular I'm talking about, 0.5 for diastole. Now, as your heart rate goes faster and faster, it is the diastole that suffers, not the systole. So what does it mean? The faster your heart goes, the less time it has to supply itself. You are overworking a heart without it supplying itself. Now if you can slow down your heart rate, you're giving more time for diastole, and that is where the heart starts to take care of itself. There's a common syndrome in healers. It's called the wounded healer syndrome. You're always healing everybody and then you end up sick. Why? Because you have not taken care of yourself. That is when the heart has a myocardial infarction. So the heart's wounded healer syndrome is myocardial infarction. And this is why, just simply as Dilip Dada was saying so beautifully, even if you can just elongate the exhalation phase, you have already started to help that person tremendously. Another aspect is what is called bronchopulmonary segments. Because initially when you talk about pranayama and you talk about the lungs, and as Dr. Bhavanani was saying about the three-part breathing, you say breathe low, mid and high. They say, you didn't study the anatomy. There is no middle lobe on the left side, he. And you're like, no, that's because you don't know the bigger story. And there is something called the lingular lobe that is physiologically equivalent to your left middle lobe. There are physical and physiological functional areas that are the same. Now what you are doing is you are consciously trying to work on bronchopulmonary segments that are not just the bhaga, vibhaga. And this is why my father used to say the vibhaga is the ABC of pranayama. Learning to utilize each and every part of your lung to its fullest capacity. Because if you don't do that, you are just doing a finger nose exercise. Most people think they are doing pranayama, they are not breathing. So if you are not breathing and you are doing this, nothing is happening, okay? The first thing is you should be breathing. So you have to teach people. Most of the people don't know that they have an area of the lung in the back. I have been in yoga training centers where I have people put their hand on the back of the other person and they see the movement that happens when you consciously focus there, and they say, oh my God, I've never realized I can breathe into the back of the lungs. Your lungs are not just pasted on the front of the body. It's like people think the chakras are pasted on the front of the body. They are not. They are not. Lungs are not pasted on the front of the body. They are three-dimensional. Front, side, back, up, down. So many dimensions. You have to breathe into all of that. Another concept is of the pranavayus. And immediately people are like, oh, I remember someone, I said we should teach the modern doctors about this. They said, no, they don't need to know it. I'm like, they need to know this. Because what is this? Prana, apana, udana, samana, vyana. These are not just hypothetical yogic concepts that we don't know about. Anything that enables you to breathe properly is the prana. Right down to the cellular respiration. Not just the lungs. Cellular respiration is also prana. Anything that enables you to communicate, it may be verbal, non-verbal, again, that is the udana. Anything that enables circulation throughout your body, that is the dhyana. Anything that helps you digest and assimilate, not just physical, mental digestion, emotional digestion, intellectual digestion, that is your samana. And all the excretion, not just what goes out of your bowel and bladder, everything that you excrete. People forget how much you excrete through the lungs, how much you excrete through sweat. All of that is the apana. When you start to understand it, you can start to create a yogic diagnosis of that patient rather than rely on somebody else's medical diagnosis. Don't treat diabetes, cancer, asthma. I hate this term. I have used it in the past and I apologize for that. Yoga for diabetes. It sounds like you do yoga, you get diabetes. Yoga for cancer. You do yoga, you get cancer. I say managing cancer through yoga. I have also done that mistake. But we all grow older and hopefully wiser, if not tireder. You know, it is very important that we understand it is the managing of cancer through yoga. And that is why my book is not stress management, it is a yogic approach to stress. You don't run away from stress. You approach stress in a positive manner where eustress occurs and distress goes down. So these are concepts we need to work on. And the most important one that every yoga teacher, every yoga therapist must know is psychoneuroimmunology. Because this is the key. Your nervous system, your endocrine system, your immune system, and how they react and interact with one another. It is an amazing phenomenon. And stress has negative effects in it. And you put yoga in, yoga has exactly the opposite effect of stress. Everything that stress does, yoga does the opposite in this psychoneuroimmunology. And that word psycho doesn't mean psycho in the sense of mental case. What it means is your thoughts and emotions that then affect your limbic system, as Sadhguru was telling us yesterday. How you think, how you emote affects your nervous system, affects your endocrine system, affects your immune system. And that is why the yogis have talked about the chakra concept. And in the chakras, the Sahasrara, which in modern terms we equate with the pineal gland, it's like saying, Sadhguru is just his little finger. I'm picking on you a lot today, I hope you don't mind. Now imagine Subodhji has invited Sadhguru, please come to this conference, or Dr. Bhavanani, please come to this conference, or John Kepner, and you just send your little finger. Do you think we'll be happy to just have your little finger on stage giving us a talk? We want the whole you. So when you say Sahasrara is pineal gland, it is like saying you are your little finger. Your little finger is part of you, but you are not only your little finger. One of my professors used to say, all enzymes are proteins, but all proteins are not enzymes. We need to understand that because we have got stuck. People come to me, they say, I have had my thyroid removed. Do I still have a Vishuddha chakra? I am absolutely, your Vishuddhi hasn't been removed. Your Vishuddhi is there. The physical correlate of it has been removed. The Binami has been removed. Okay, thanks to Modi ji, the Binami is being removed. That is, your thyroid is removed, but the Vishuddhi is still there. We need to re-understand it, and that is where Einstein comes in. E is equal to mc square. What is energy? Energy is prana. And what is that prana? It is speeded up matter. And that is why it's not mind or matter, it is mind and matter. It is energy and the relationship. Your chakras are pure energy. When you can slow them down, you have the endocrine glands, you have the nerve plexi. But that's not where they are. That's in the Annamaya Kosha. The purest form of the chakra is in the Anandamaya Kosha. Do you want that little finger or do you want the full person? Can I ask you? Do you want the little finger? Do you want the whole person? Yes. I'm not getting an answer. Yes. Do you want the whole person? Yes. A little more? Yes. Yes. Then why do we limit ourselves to this reductionist aspect? Use it to help you understand. But do not limit yourself to saying, oh, Mooladhara is just your gonads. And so if Mooladhara is working, you have good sex. No. It's not about that, okay? It's much more than that. Where are you rooted? Where is your support system? Physical, emotional, social. That is what the Mooladhara is all about. Now, yoga as a therapy, where does it come in? Yoga wants to help us regain psychophysiological balance by removing the root cause of the disharmony, not symptomatic management. And that is why Lord Krishna tells us, Dukkha Samyoga Viyogam Yoga Sangitam. The one place where yoga is defined as disassociation, disentangling. And I tell, in modern times, this is brought out by people identifying with a disease. He says, Dukkha Samyoga, that is identifying with your disease. People come into my clinic, and you know what? I say, good morning, who are you? And they say, I am diabetic. I am a cancer patient. I'm like, at least tell me your name, okay? Even that is avidya, but this is worse than that. Huh? And then people are like, my cancer, my asthma, my dukkha samyoga. I'm going to take it with me to the grave. And you cannot take it beyond it, but at least I'll take it to the grave. Huh? I say identification hota. People identify with it. My problem. That's why my father, and today I can remember him 25 years ago, leaving me physically. But as I told my mother today, he lives on in every breath of mine. Every breath my father lives on. Every thought, every word, every action. And he would say, you don't have problems. You are the problem. Such a beautiful statement. Because it is our identification with the problem that creates a subjectivity that a molehill becomes the mountain, and yoga gives vairagya, metacognition, where you take a step back and suddenly this mountain problem becomes a molehill because you have dukkha samyoga viyogam. That stepping back from the identification is the issue that we need to work on. And I tell people, at least don't say my diabetes, say the diabetes, the cancer, the asthma. At least then you realize it's an unwelcome visitor. But many people are so identified with it, they are afraid if they get cured, they will suffer an identity crisis. उन लोग का पूरा identity है diabetic patient. What will I be if I don't have diabetes? So see, you are not it's not so simple to deal with human beings. Human beings are the most complex organism ever created in this universe and all the universes. That is why no alien wants to come here. They are scared of us. And remember, yoga therapy without yoga is no longer yoga. And that is why the IAYT's message of keep the yoga and yoga therapy, that is the most important message of all for me. Because my father, 25 years ago and before that, used to say, modern yoga therapy. Now, he was talking of then, I wonder what he would say today, but maybe he's saying it through me. He used to say, modern yoga therapy is Western physiotherapy in Indian clothes. And if you look at a lot of the modern yoga therapy, it is that. The yoga is missing. It is our dharma. I'm not using the word duty because dharma and duty, that's the worst, cheese and chalk comparison. Our dharma is to keep the yoga and yoga therapy. Now, what is the cause of disease? If you're looking at root cause, the primary cause is duality. You have thought you are different. You are separate. And that is where the avidya comes in. Because of the avidya, you think I exist separately than the universe. The mind thinks I am different than the body. The body says I am different than the mind. And then you have the problem where you have two people who hate each other having to live together in a single bedroom flat for the whole life. That is what is psychosomatic disorders. The mind doesn't like the body. It says, I am not you. The body says to the mind, and neither are you me. In society, you are different than me. You are black, you are white, you are green, you are blue. You are tall, you are short, you are Indian, you are non-Indian. You speak my language, you don't speak. You are my religion, you are not my religion. That is the cancer of society that is coming because of duality. And that is why it's not just about us. It's the ability to look at the unitive principle throughout humanity and realize Tattvamasi. Not just me, all. All of us have that unitive principle of the universe in us. And to regain it, we have the methodology of yoga, the tools of yoga. The Yoga Vashishta talks about psychosomatic disorders 5,000 years ago. Kali Yuga, we are in 5,000 years of Kali Yuga. And this was before Kali Yuga, before Krishna. Rama comes before Krishna. And Rama was so depressed, so dejected, on the verge of suicide, you can say. And his father Dasharatha calls the Guru Vashishta and says, please give this teenage guy who's suffering teenage syndrome, please give him some counseling. The first recorded counseling session in human history is the Yoga Vashishta. Any guess which is the second? Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna and his Vishada. We have to go back to that. And where does this come in? A beautiful concept given by Antonovsky on salatogenesis is that the stressor comes into you But then you decide whether it is going to go the salutogenic pathway, which is positive health, or the pathogenic pathway, which is negative health. You are the master of your own destiny. Because you make the choice. Are you going to let this stressor break you, or is that going to be a breakthrough for you? That difference between it being a breakdown and a breakthrough lies in our hands. And that is why we talk about the Adi coming down to the Vyadi through the koshas, and 4 very beautiful steps of that. The psychic phase, which is related to the Vijnanamaya and Manomaya kosha, where there's a little bit of stress, the problem is sort of lingering there. The second one is psychosomatic, where now that problem is starting to cause your blood pressure to go up, your blood sugar to go up, your muscles to tighten. But if the stressor goes away, you go back to normal. So 1 and 2 are easily reversible with only yoga therapy. But the moment you come into the somatic phase, now it is into the pranamaya and annamaya, it starts to take on permanent residence in you, and you permanently have diabetes or hypertension or cancer or whatever. And then yoga becomes adjunct therapy. You need other therapies. It can be Ayush systems, it can be allopathy, it can be whatever. Then the final one is organic phase. This in medical terminology you can understand as target organ damage. You have the diabetes or the hypertension so long, you have gone into nephropathy, retinopathy and all of those pathies that happen. And except Ganapati, as Kaustubh would tell me. You don't get Ganapati through that. Ganapati is a different pathway. Another model that Patanjali gives us is the Pancha Klesha model. And this is a beautiful statue of Patanjali in our Italian ashram. And me hugging my dear friend. For me, Patanjali is my dearest friend. He is a time traveler from the future. He is not from the past. And that is why Patanjali's teachings are as relevant, if not more relevant today than they ever were. And again, coming all the way down from avidya, and the worst part is this desire to survive, which I'm going to talk about later, the abhinivesha, that I have to survive at any cost. And that is why if we do not treat that dvaitam, that disassociation between the psyche and the soma, and don't correct the avidya, we are not practicing yoga chikitsa. You may be thinking you are doing it, but you are not doing it. And that is why, along with Ganapati and all, you have Yogopathy. And Yogopathy is basically managing and suppressing the symptoms with yoga techniques without trying to correct the underlying cause. Symptomatic management is Yogopathy. It is beneficial, but don't think you are doing Yoga Chikitsa. Yoga Chikitsa has to look at the root, correct the root. In our Tamil scripture, the Thirukural, it says, Noi nadi, noi mudal nadi, adu tanikkum vai nadi vaipa cheyal. Look for the disease, look for the root cause, find the root cause, apply the remedy. Heya hetu hana upaya. Patanjali says the same thing. And that we have to do, if not, it's Yogopathy. Yoga Chikitsa, yoga as a therapy is based on salutogenesis, whereas Yogopathy is based on pathogenesis. And my father had given a 12-point system of diagnosis and health evaluation. The 3 gunas, the 3 dosha, the 3 vasana, prana, abhyasa, jiva karma, chetana, vacha, ahara, viparita buddhi, jiva vrittis and sankalpa, as being an important way for us to have a yogic diagnosis, that then you treat yogically, helping the medical diagnosis to be managed. Don't treat the medical diagnosis. Treat your yogic diagnosis. Which pranavayu needs to be worked on? What type of abhyasa does the person need? What type of guna is there and what type of reconditioning is there? What samskara is there that needs samskara reconditioning? As we were talking yesterday, the modern concept of neuroplasticity is nothing but sanskar reconditioning. Reconditioning your sanskar is what neuroplasticity is all about. And this leap from a pathogenic orientation to salutogenic is what we need to do, where we will try to relieve the pent-up anxiety and stress that is within us. The first type of anxiety is the anxiety that comes from performance anxiety. I have to give my speech today. What if Dr. Bhavanani doesn't like it? What if Sadhbir throws rotten eggs at me? Huh? What if somebody throws stones at me? Oh my God. What happens? My stomach sinks. We find butterflies in the stomach. So if you want to deal with performance anxiety and stress, the sound for that is ha, 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 ha. Okay, the sound ha is a solar sound. The sun, as in hatha, not hatha, hatha yoga. Down here, ha. The second anxiety is relationship. It's at the heart center. Oh my God, will they like me or not? Will they love me or not? If I give a red rose and propose, will she accept or not? You know, all this type of stuff that goes on, that is here. That is why the emotionality comes in Indian movies. It is at some emotional thing that suddenly the father of the hero or heroine will, you know, that moment? Yeah. Because it is relationship anxiety. And this is because we are holding things tight. We are trying to get and not give. A good human being, a noble human being is a giver, not a getter. And my father said, the more you give, the more comes back. So be careful what you give, because more of it comes back. So here, the sound is ho. And ho, 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 ho. And you know who makes that sound around this time of the year? Father Christmas, Santa Claus. Ho, ho, because he's the giver. So when you go ho, 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 what you are doing is you are releasing your relationship-based anxiety. The third anxiety is up here in the neck, where we kill ourselves with those ties. You know, the tie prevents the energy flow from your head to the heart. And that's why people become either head or heart. And that's why I don't wear a tie. And this is my formal clothes. This is my tie and suit, okay? Equivalent. Now, here, this is about status anxiety. I am the director. I am the president. I am the researcher. I am the speaker. You know, you can see people, you know, they're like this. You know, that is up here. They're sort of like that. How do you get? You let go by he. So you have ha, 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 ho, 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 he. And you're letting it out. Sound is the best way to let out stuff. Repressed, regressed, emotion, suppressed. To let it out is best as sound. I work a lot with kids and I use this a lot. Next one is back here. This is your thickest part of your skull because it protects the brain stem, which is only worried about staying alive. Because the brain stem can keep your breathing going, can keep your heart going and help you digest food. And that's all it cares about. It doesn't care whether you have relationships, whether you're enjoying life or not, you are staying alive. This is the seat of Abhinivesha. Desire to survive, very strong. So this is very much about me. I have to survive, my ideas have to survive. So this we will tap and we go, me. Okay, me, as in me, yeah. And you should be very mean when you do this. Me. Okay? And then you shift to the prefrontal cortex, which is where the dhi is. Dhi is the intellect, the buddhi. And dhiyo yona prachodayat, as our Gayatri mantra tells us. And in Old English, dhi was the other person. So here you are stuck with only me. Here you are shifting from only me to us. From I to we. And this is the sound of dhi. So you have 5 sounds. Ha, 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 ha. Ho, 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 ho. He. Me. Di. And then you realize all of this is Brahmamayam, Sarvam Brahmamayam. So you throw it out by going, go. And you throw it all out. You say, I don't want to hold on to it. Do you want to join me in this? Yes. Can we all stand up? Yes. You have been sitting a long time. Sitting is the new smoking, okay? So I get you. I have just prevented you from losing 1 month in your life, okay? Let's start now. Ha, 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 ha. Ho. He. Me. Di. Go. Ha. Ho. He. Me. Di. Go. Ha. Ho. He. Me. Di. Go. Now you can sit down. You see, my message got across to my chairperson that you should give. So I said, can I have a minute? He said, you can have 2. The more you give, the more you get. So some final words here. Where am I? Yeah. Yogapati is more about doing than being. And the key word I would like you to take home is do less and let more manifest. We want to do more. You know, when a patient comes to you, don't think you have to give them all the yoga techniques you have learned in all your training. People do that. You may need only one technique. You may need only one concept. And that is why Patanjali is very clear. Eka tattva abhyasaha, he says. You may need only one. He didn't say aneka tattva abhyasaha. He said eka tattva, not aneka. You need one. You need to simplify it. And by doing more, that relaxation response can come. And this is where you have to be. Yoga is all about being a good human being. We have stopped being a human being and we are becoming a human doing. Always. When we meet somebody, what do we say? How do you do? We don't say, how do you be? The next question, what do you do? What do you be? We don't say. Very big issue. We need to recorrect these patterns because we are focusing on what do you do because we think what you do is what you are. What you do is not what you are. What you are is what you are. And that is what we want to bring out through the yoga. That sukhasthanam, where you are at ease with yourself. When you lose that state of ease, you go into disease. And this is why the need of the hour is a symbiotic relationship between yoga and modern science. Iti, modern science also, yoga also. We have to find the commonalities. And for that we need human bridges who combine the best of both. More young people in yoga must approach science. More young people in science must approach yoga. Because it is only when you have both. See, if I have only one eye, I have a single dimensional view. When I have this, I have another dimension. It's only when I use both eyes, I create the three-dimensional perspective that I get, even from my eyes. Now, if I'm only saying, I'm only going to look at it this way, this way, this way, I'm missing the bigger picture. If I say only this, 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 so it's neither right or left, okay, politically also and socially also. It's not right or left. It's about finding that midpoint. Mitahara is the path, not the other. And this is why we need to focus on wholesomeness and salutogenesis. Moving consciously by choice from dukkham to sukham, from dis-ease to ease. This is our dharma. And I translate dharma as responsibility as a yoga therapist. This is the key aspect of a yoga chikiksha. And only when we live our dharma do we truly become a human being. Krishna tells us, live your dharma. Don't worry how great or less it is. Your dharma is for you. And when you live your dharma, you become truly human. And my prayer, may we all be blessed to do so. Ending here with Hari Om Tat Sat. Dhanyavad.
Now, we were supposed to have, according to the program, an online survey about yoga therapy and research. However, we will do this tomorrow. Those of you who can take the survey now, it's very simple. It's only 12 short steps. Prasida Menon will put up the link. It's a very simple link as well, www.kdham.com/survey. It's only 12 steps. And also those of you who have taken the feedback forms, please return them to the volunteers. If you can just fire up your smartphone, www.kdham.com/survey. We can take the survey now itself.
Kdham.com/survey.